If you haven't noticed, Saudi Arabia is buying the sport of boxing. Day of Reckoning, Tyson Fury versus Francis Ngannou, Jake Paul versus Tommy Fury, three of some of the biggest or at least most publicized boxing events of last year, were all hosted and arranged in Saudi Arabia, specifically in Riyadh, the capital of the country. And going into this year, Saudi Arabia has also planned the highly anticipated Usyk versus Fury for all the heavyweight belts and will finally crown an undisputed heavyweight champion in the 4-belt era this month in February. They were also able to make another heavyweight super fight in Francis Ngannou versus Anthony Joshua, which will happen literally a month after in March. And probably the best news in my opinion was Dmitry Bivol versus Artur Beterbiev finally being announced to take place sometime in 2024 in Saudi Arabia to finally unite 175. It's clear from these moves that Saudi Arabia is practically trying to buy out the sport of boxing and is trying to call its country the home for the biggest boxing pay-per-view events. So the question is, how did we get here? How did Saudi Arabia, in the span of 4-ish years, basically take over boxing and become the hub for some of the biggest pay-per-view boxing events in the world? How is Saudi Arabia already looking like the new home for boxing and is about to dethrone Vegas? And most importantly, who the hell is this guy? The guy that seems like he's running the entire show. So today, let's answer those questions. Let's go back to 2019, right around here. Everyone is still high off the shock of Anthony Joshua losing to this guy of all people, and so of course, the rematch to this fight was going to be highly anticipated. Though another shock to all of us was that the fight was going to be hosted in Saudi Arabia. Apparently, the country paid 30 million euros, or about $41 million for the rights to host this event in their new arena in Diriyah, a small town right outside of Riyadh. Saudi Arabia, along with Eddie Hearn and DAZN, hosted the event with commercial success, generating about 1.5 million pay-per-view buys in the UK, and it was watched by 1.8 million people on DAZN. And so with their brand new venue debuted with one of the most anticipated boxing matches ever, Saudi Arabia kickstarted their master plan of taking over the sport of boxing. They would host another Anthony Joshua rematch, this time with Alexander Usyk in 2022, and make big moves in 2023 with, like I said before, Ngannou versus Fury, Jake Paul versus Tommy Fury, and the Day of Reckoning. Then planned for this year, we have Usyk versus Fury, Joshua versus Ngannou, and Bivol versus Beterbiev. But why is Saudi Arabia all of a sudden so interested in boxing? I think the country's interest can be really pinned on one guy, Turki Al-Sheikh. If you haven't already, please watch his DAZN interview as it gives a great insight on who he is in relation to boxing and really shows how much of a fan he truly is. He recognizes the vast amount of problems that is limiting boxing from being a great sport, such as the 4-belt system, promoters not being able to make big fights, great fighters refusing to fight other great fighters, and the fear of the best boxers aging before they have the chance to fight each other. As I was watching this video and basically relating to everything he said, I quickly realized that he's just one of us. He's the disgruntled boxing fan that wants boxing to be on top again and sees all of the problems in boxing that's holding it back. However, the difference between him and you and I is about a couple $1 billion. Turki Al-Sheikh is a Saudi royal court advisor and, more importantly, the chairman of the GEA, or the General Entertainment Authority, which basically oversees the entire country's entertainment industry. And with him at the helm, he has put together these high-profile boxing events and in general seems to be in charge of Riyadh Season, an annual entertainment and sports event funded by the country that hosts some of the biggest tennis, soccer, and obviously boxing events. It was an initiative originally started by the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman, in, you guessed it, 2019, and since then has looked to make Saudi Arabia not only the capital of boxing, but the capital of entertainment and sports. Now, why might Saudi Arabia be spending all of this money to try to be the capital of sports and entertainment? Maybe they just want to prove to the world that they're the best, or maybe a possible theory that people have been spreading around is that they're practicing what's known as sports washing. Sports washing is a term to describe the practice of using sports to improve a country's tarnished reputation or hide away unethical conduct. Now, what type of tarnished reputations and unethical conduct are we talking about in terms of Saudi Arabia? I'll let you do your own research and make up your own opinion. But anyways, Saudi Arabia has been looking to make really big moves in sports. Saudi Arabia made a huge move in the beginning of 2023 in the soccer or football world by signing Ronaldo to a 2.5-year deal worth around $200 million per year. And it also seems like every chance they get, Saudi Arabia loves to show off their cash cow at every boxing event imaginable. And in the golf world, they started Live Golf, basically a direct competitor to the PGA Tour, and stole some of their biggest stars like Phil Mickelson, who is reportedly also earning about $200 million, and got so big PGA has basically bent the knee to Live Golf, announcing that they would be merging with them. And it looks like Saudi Arabia is doing the same thing with boxing. In this case, they have partnered with Eddie Hearn, his promotion Matchroom Boxing, and the greater broadcaster DAZN to basically buy all of the biggest fights that contain the biggest stars to host in their stadiums. Now, the Crown Prince is aware of these sports washing allegations, but he simply just doesn't care. In this Fox interview, he literally says verbatim, he doesn't care if people call his move sports washing so long as it increases his country's GDP, which in my opinion is a pretty boss move. Now, whatever your opinions are on sports washing is one thing, but it's pretty clear to see that his impact on boxing has been pretty good so far. Him, along with Turki Al-Sheikh, has created the Day of Reckoning, which had Deontay Wilder, Anthony Joshua, Dimitri Bivol, and the banger of a fight in Daniel Dubois and Big Baby Miller, which has definitely been the deepest roster of any boxing event in recent memory. Now, obviously, it sucks that Wilder and Joshua were on the same card and didn't fight, but I'm still happy such a stacked card was created for boxing, and we got an exciting result out of it. And with a genuinely big boxing fan in Turki Al-Sheikh in charge, it does seem like the matchups that people want to see are actually going to be made in pretty quick fashion. This could finally be the guy that just buys out all of boxing and finally unites it under one organization, and fingers crossed makes everyone fight for one belt once he makes all the divisions unify and make one undisputed champion. That, of course, is the main reason why boxing has sucked recently, and I have made countless videos detailing boxing's main problem of the best not fighting the best. So with the money that Saudi Arabia can throw at these fighters, they can finally get them to fight each other and completely reinvigorate the sport. Now, it's not all positives with the Saudi takeover, as one of the biggest problems is actually outside of the fight itself. Saudi Arabia and Turki Al-Sheikh love putting a song and dance together outside of the fight itself, from the literal song and dance of the many concerts to the forcing of celebrities to be there and sometimes making their presence as big as the fight, basically adding a lot of fluff for no reason. And speaking of the crowd, the atmosphere of these fights are completely dead. The only people in these crowds are, again, celebrities paid to be there, Saudi royalty, and anyone insanely rich enough to be there, with rarely any real fans of the sport there cheering. It makes the whole event feel so artificial and makes you thankful for the real crowd and energy that is brought from an arena when watching an actual UFC or boxing event. And this may not be an actual problem yet, and I'm no economist, but I feel like shelling out millions and millions of dollars to basically outbid for fights, pay these insane fighter purses, and spend all of this money on celebrities and the crazy fluff around these events without getting that money back, or even a quarter of that money back, is probably not sustainable. Despite all this money shelled out, this event only did 67,000 pay-per-view buys, granted only in the US, but considering a UK number was not released, means it was probably pretty disappointing there too. And again, I may be wrong, this could be chump change to Saudi Arabia, but I feel like a bubble is about to burst if they keep spending all of this money on events that don't really pay out. But all in all, like I said before, having boxing under one quote-unquote organization or promotion in Turki Al-Sheikh in Saudi Arabia seems to be a net positive for the sport. And even though I listed some problems, I do think all of those problems are fixable. But anyways, what do you guys think about Saudi Arabia's takeover of boxing, and is it good or bad for the sport? Again, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next week.